Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us. It's Lizzie here from the Zero to Revenue Challenge, and I am joined today by Jeremie Warner. Jeremie, give us a wave.
Hello.
Hello. So thank you so much for joining us today. And for those of you who have not yet to meet Jeremie, Jeremie is the founder of Power Life, and they're a buy-to-give mobile accessories brand. So Jeremie, I'm going to just give you a wee chance to tell us more about Power Life.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, you've done a pretty good intro right there. We sell mobile phone accessories, specializing in portable power. And for every product that we sell, we gift a free solar light to a child in a developing country, one for one. So we started with portable power. We now do phone cases, charge cables, solar chargers, but yeah, focusing on mobile accessories.
And what is the buy-to-give market like? What kind of products are available?
Awesome. Well, I mean, you name it, and it's probably out there. I think a few years ago, it was a wee bit more niche. There wasn't as many people, many companies, organizations working in this market with this business model. Like nowadays, though, that it's certainly gaining traction, gaining momentum. I think younger consumers are asking for this type of product more and more. People want to make a difference with their purchases. So, I mean, it's not that it's a crowded marketplace when it comes to buy to give. It's maybe a wee bit more crowded in mobile accessories, but we're certainly not alone, and it's definitely a growing market.
Okay, so how do you describe Power to Life in terms of the type of company structure that you have?
We're a private limited company, limited by shares. So it's pretty vanilla and bog standard as it comes when it comes to company structure. There's a whole host of ways that you could structure yourself to be a social enterprise or an impact brand, but we just went straight down the line. We're a company limited by shares. And
what does your team look like? Who are behind Power Life?
Well, I mean, you're kind of looking at most of the team right now. I am well supported, however, by a few freelancers that we work with who have worked full time with us before, not at the moment. Got an awesome group of investors behind us as well that were there that we can call upon for grey hair, advice, and wisdom. Mm-hmm. But in terms of day to day, who's driving this thing, it's certainly myself at the moment.
So I want to pick into what kind of SaaS products you use, and I guess largely yourself, but then also if you're interacting with freelancers to kind of build the product.
Sure. Yeah. So
which ones do you pay for?
So I mean, I've had a wee think about this. Like there's quite a few I feel that we pay for. So I mean, I'll rattle off the list. So it's Adobe Creative Cloud, Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, Shopify with a whole load of plugins. I guess that counts as a SaaS solution. HubSpot we're about to build on. There's one called Circle Loop. It's a virtual mobile phone that again it's paid for through the internet. Klaviyo for automated email marketing. Various photo editing apps for Instagram on mobile that come with a sort of monthly subscription or a yearly subscription. Google G Suite for emails, and then Hootsuite for social scheduling. I mean, there's probably a whole load of others that, because I was just doing the financials last week, so I've gone through all the invoices, but the ones that sort of spring to mind that we use on a regular basis, those would be the ones. And I guess other ones that Simon Videographer uses, for example, would be Soundstripe for like royalty-free music. I think that's kind of it. It's maybe not an exhaustive list, but it's a list nonetheless.
And when you start thinking about it, you're like, oh, that reminds me, and this one, and this one, and this one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
These might be one and the same thing because you're definitely running the show at the moment. But are there any products that you would say you pay for, SaaS products for personal use for the business? So it might be, I don't know, like DocSend. Maybe you don't need everyone in the team to have.
And there's another one we pay for, WeTransfer Plus, so for sending large files, and that the company pays for that one. But one that I do pay for myself is Superhuman. So this is like email. It's an email client. So I think it's relatively new. Callum Forsyth at Seed House gave me the tip. It's pricey. I mean, I think it's like $30 plus fees. But that, because it's email, and it would be, although it's a company email, I do use it for, I don't know, all manner of personal things. I guess I'm paying for that one myself. So the only one that I'm like, we use it for business, but I pay for it myself would be Superhuman, and that's an email client.
And would there be things that, like the business pays for, but still it's for you as a single user rather than a team-wide?
Well, Adobe Creative Cloud, I mean, like that, I guess, because that's per per user license, right? So I mean, it's companies paying, I think we're like £60 a month, ex VAT or ink VAT there. So I mean, it's reasonably punchy, but I mean, it comes with the full Creative Cloud. So that is literally like every Adobe product that you can think of for desktop and for mobile. And that, I guess, because I have it, I would use it for personal stuff as well, right? Like whether it's Photoshops or photoshopping photos or creating documents and then design. But it's just so, yeah, I mean, I use it almost every day for all manner of projects. So I think that's probably a half decent example of that.
Great. So in terms of your journey with Powerlife so far, how has the funding been made up? What's that look like?
You know the story. It's been long, tedious and painful. I think would be a 3-word summary. I think when we first started, the challenge was that we are a social brand, and investors, like conventional typical angel investors, would perhaps look at you and think, but you're giving a massive chunk of your profit away to good causes. We're looking for an excellent return on our investment. So there's maybe just like it didn't quite line up with your typical angel investors when we first started. And then we found ourselves in an awkward place where we didn't fit the mold 100% for straight up e-gateway SE support, because we were a social enterprise. They would send us to the social enterprise support agencies, and then the social enterprise support agencies would send us back to B-Gateway SE because we're a limited company, limited by shares. And I guess sort of 3-4 years ago, they would favor funding legal structure rather than impact, meaning they would look for you to be a KIC, a CIC, or a charity that owns a company, or just a straight up charity. And I guess we didn't want to be any of those things. We wanted to be strictly for profit, but profit for purpose, which then led us down the raising private equity investment with angel investors, which took us a long time. I think, being very diplomatic, the reason was that there were structural issues with the way that we were set up, and it needed us to overcome those challenges in order to eventually raise investment. So I guess without wanting to go into too much detail in a public forum, it was a long journey. We had to find the right investors that backed the mission, and then also overcome structural issues within the first iteration of the company.
So now, does that look like angel investors? Anything else that makes that up?
100%. So it's now we are entirely angel funded. I think there's maybe 9 or 10 angels. In that, we also have Strathclyde University as an institutional investor. Strathclyde has an enterprise fund that has invested in the company, but the rest is all individual investors.
And so how much has that been that you've raised to date?
So the round of investment was £101,000, 20,000 of which came from Strathclyde.
Yeah. Okay, so thinking of those investors, those shareholders, how do you go about keeping them up to date with how Powerlife's journey is going?
Yeah, great shout. I find it very stressful. Speaking personally about keeping investors up to date, we do quarterly investment updates. Being a small team, I mean, it takes time to produce these documents, and I think my time is better spent trying to build the business rather than keeping investors up to date all the time. So we do it quarterly.
And how long does that take you if you're...
Do you know what? It probably takes too long, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think by the time I thought through what we need to tell them, how we're going to tell them it, and then drafting it up, getting the comments, getting the feedback, producing a nice looking document, we could be from start to finish 5 days, not necessarily 5 full days, but the best part of a week, start to finish, with a blank piece of paper and actually getting something that looks nice out the door at the end of it. Probably the best part of a week.
And how does that feel to do? I think I can see this just in your book.
I have a board meeting next week, so we've just kind of gone through this process again. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the nature of startup where you're like, you're trying to tell a positive story as to like what's happened over the last 3 months, but at the same time, you're always worried about running out of money and making sure the sales come in the door, and presenting that in such a way to our investors that, you know what, we are making progress and traction is happening and momentum is starting to build, but at the same time conscious of cash flow and making sure opportunities actually come to fruition, and juggling all this while being a one-man band and doing 1,000,001 things.
Is there any part of the process that you do like?
Getting out the door. Do you know, like, because sometimes we'll get feedback and questions, other times we won't, you know? So, I mean, I think it's like, get the thing done, send it out, and then it's kind of, yeah, I mean, it's open to criticism and feedback at that point, but we're not going to do a full update for another 3 months at that point. It's like crack on back to work, you know?
Okay, so as a whole, if you think about all those different types of shareholders and investors you have, if you think of them as a group, how engaged percentage-wise would you say they are?
Difficult to say as a group, because I guess like everyone's different and each individual investor has different motivations behind why they invested. So I think there are, I mean, it's perfectly fair to say there are some investors that are completely passive. We've had minimal contact, but it suits them and that's what they were looking for. Whereas there are others that are keen to help out, and I'm keen for the advice and the feedback. So I mean, on a spectrum of highly involved to not at all, we've got both ends of the spectrum, but I suspect most people are sort of in the middle where it's help and advice as and when it's asked for.
And what does your ideal kind of engagement frequency or method with those investors look like? If you could just paint the perfect investor, this is what the engagement relationship would be like.
I think it's not quite as black and white as that though, where it depends. Like, I mean, if you've got a high net worth who's come from industry, highly respected, has the black book, super well connected, then it's like, I'd like all your attention. But on the flip side, others aren't like that, and they maybe come with the finance, but not necessarily the willingness to help out and make those intros. You know, I think it totally depends. But I guess from my point of view with the board, we're trying to not do individual investor updates on demand because it's just a massive time sink. But having said that, if an investor wants to meet, have a chat, and give advice, then I'm obviously keen for their time, you know?
Has that been a development? Have you kind of been on a journey with that? Was there a time you would have behaved differently in terms of those updates and the time that you spent?
I would. Well, we're getting better at it, right? Like, so with practice and experience, they don't take as long to do. The templates are set up at this point, and it's like, write the text and drop in a different picture or a different graph. But in terms of like how do I behave with my investors? Well, professionally, and I have done since the start. So I mean, if there are questions and they're awkward, I'll give an honest answer, and I expect to be grilled during a Q&A.
Yeah.
But in terms of the behavior, yeah, completely professional, and that hasn't changed at all.
So if you're the one making up the report and sending it out, how does that practically work? Do you use tools? How do they receive it? What does that look like?
Yeah, so pretty basic, I would suggest. I mean, so I'll draft it up in Pages. I'm a Mac user. We'll then and this is where the software becomes a total pain. Being a Mac user, I'll export it to Word for the squares in the team that use PC. We'll model our way through track changes between Pages and Microsoft Word with it not being hugely compatible. I'll lose all of my beautiful formatting when I export it as a Word document. I'll then get the feedback, accept, edit, and change. And I'll probably at that point, just because I know how to use Adobe InDesign to do nice layouts. And then that can export as either a printable PDF or an interactive PDF for like hot links and links to videos, links to websites, that kind of stuff. So I mean, I don't know. It's how I guess I produce quite a lot of our documents. When we draft it up in Pages and then lay it out nicely in InDesign, just because it's more versatile and offers more functionality on that kind of stuff. And then it can be hot linked and embedded with all the media that way.
And is that then shared with them by email?
Email, yeah, individual email. And I guess this, because every relationship with each investor is different.
Yeah.
So I will send a cover note via email and maybe follow up on things that we've been talking about, or how's it going, or how was Christmas, based on having spoken to you before Christmas. Just personal touches, because I think that makes a big difference. And then it goes out through email.
Yeah, that's great. That makes sense. I would love to just wrap up by asking you a little bit more about the journey you've been on with recognizing that you want to make profits for purpose, but that you said in the beginning, actually the market that we're looking at, it doesn't matter what the impact is, right? Like in terms of the business model and what you're focused on and your marketing, can you tell me a little bit about that journey and where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, every product sold is a solar light gifted to a child in a developing country. Currently, we gift in Senegal, the Gambia, and Zimbabwe, and the impact is life-changing. We've monitored, tracked, and evaluated it, and we know that kids that receive solar lights all get better grades in school. So then there's that sort of, that tension between doing awesome impact stuff for the world's poorest kids whilst also trying to make a profit. I think a nice way to put it is enlightened self-interest. So yeah, I want to do well out of this. I think everyone that is involved with Paralife wants to do well out of this. But we know that we're doing it in order to empower as many kids with the ability to do homework and walk home safely from school, So yeah, we are a for-profit, fully commercial, entrepreneurial, we're hustling and we're grinding, but we're doing that in order to empower as many kids as possible with light.
And I think when you say it like that, it sounds like it's absolutely attuned to your values. You understand it. It's something that the team share. Has that been a kind of education process of maybe the consumer market and investors?
Yes, for sure. So when we first started, maybe 4 years ago, there was a need to explain that no, we're a company and we do good, right? But nowadays, I think with things like your Save the Children and your Oxfam scandals and people wanting to do good but not trusting big corporates and multinational charities, small guys like us have got a place, I think that for sure customers they're more and more people are looking forward to it. I mean, the hat I'm wearing is a buy to give, right? Buy with this hat and they're giving hats to the homeless. I think that there's all manner of these small brands that are turning into big brands and customers want more and more of what we're doing.
Love that. Jeremie, thank you so much for joining us today. So just to wrap up, if people were wanting to learn more about Paralife, what one channel would you pick for them to look at?
Website and buy our stuff, poweralife.com.
It's amazing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.